All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Matty here from Chill TCG. Today we're going to be looking at the 10 best decks going into November in the standard format. The list was based off of online tournament results going in throughout the whole month of October, so that's how this list was created. As always, all of the statistics that we used in this video were gathered by CashVendorMan and Pokestats.com, so big shout out to both of them. The Pokestats CP rankings are from the entire month of October, so within a 4-week span, we looked at all the online tournament results and used those results to make this list. The CPs, so the points that we used here, are calculated from all the top cut placements at all these online events. And that way, it's fair. So the higher the placement, the more points that deck archetype got, as well as the size of the tournament is a factor as well. But again, big thanks to Cashman27 there on Twitter, and big thanks to Pokestats.com. You can check out Cashman right there. That's his Twitter, and you can check out Pokestats website at ptcgostats.com. All right, let's kick it off. So at the number 10 spot, we have Dragapult VMAX returning to the list here. Dragapult VMAX, it definitely saw a huge dip in play since Darkness Ablaze came out, and Eternatus VMAX was on the rise. However, some people have found out new ways to play Dragapult VMAX that make it a very viable deck right now in the standard format. People right now playing Dragapult VMAX are focused around Energy Denial, as well as some other engines to accelerate energy and things like that. So we see that the Clefable there, I believe from Rebel Clash, is seeing play. Of course, Crushing Hammers is seeing a lot of play in Dragapult VMAX as well, and people are also playing Magneton as a great support Pokemon in this deck. If we look, it's got 147 points here on the list. Definitely not a whole lot, but enough to make that number 10 spot. And if we look at the placements, it's actually nothing too terrible. So it did get first at the Atlas Mini number 9. I got fourth at the Atlas Mini number 9 as well. I got 8th at the Limitless number 3 tournament, which is actually really impressive. And it got 9th at the Chill Series number 7. And 15th at the Hexter Season 2 Invitational. So 2 pretty high key tournaments there, getting top 16 and top 8. Dragapult VMAX, it's not anything, insane right now in the format. Nothing too powerful, but I think that it deserves to see, a little bit more play going into this next month. All right, and coming in at number 9, we have our first single Prizer archetype deck coming in here, Excadrill from Cosmic Eclipse. Excadrill here definitely has blown up a little bit in the last few weeks. Has a lot of really good matchups right now as Pikarom has gotten more popular, and even things like Eternatus. Excadrill is proving to be a very, very solid pick right now in the standard format. So most people are running, Cinccino to get your deck thinned out so you can get that, that 11th hour tackle attack off to do some big damage. And also hitting for weakness against some of those Pokemon. That second attack there, Drill Bazooka 120 does actually 240 against Pikarom. So it can be very, very powerful in certain matchups. The Pokestats CP, so we get 257, almost double Dragapult. So it's seeing quite a bit of play and has quite a bit of success. People are also running Crushing Hammer, just like they are in most decks, and Hapu as well to burn through your deck. This deck, honestly, people have figured this one out pretty well. I think it's going to be a really solid deck archetype, single prize archetype going into the month of October. If we look at the placements, it got first at Sunday Open, third at the Sunday Open. It's got 9th at Atlas Mini number 9, 13th at Chill Series number 8, and 13th at PokéX Hyperluck. Very solid deck list. I suggest that you go check this one out. It's a pretty cheap deck list as far as some of these decks go right now in the standard format. And if you're looking to pick up a really a cheaper, more budget type deck, this one's definitely fits the bill. Decidueye Goons is stuck around here at the number 8 spot. Decidueye Goons, what can I say? It's one of the more consistent and well-placing single prize archetype decks right now. We have, of course, it kind of arose when Darkness Ablaze came out and was played pretty heavily in those first few weeks, but ever since then it's kind of tapered out just a bit. Still being played consistently, still getting some consistent placings. People typically only run one type of Decidueye Goons. There's not really a whole lot of space for tech options. People are still running Big Parasol, which I think is a good option. People run Fion, which is obviously really good in this deck to get your opponent's active Pokemon out of there to force them to move into one of those bench Pokemon that can't hit you. Definitely a really good card. And people are now including Mew into this deck as well from Unbroken Bonds, which I think is a really good inclusion with all those Pikaroms running around right now in the format. Pokestats CP, so It ranked up 455 points, so we're jumping up here a little bit. Definitely, played a bit more than the last two decks that we've seen. But the results are also, very consistent if we take a look. Second at the Sunday Open on the 25th, fifth at the Sunday Open on the 18th. They got fifth at the Limitless number 3 tournament. Shout out to Tablemon. They got sixth at Atlas Mini number 8 and seventh at PokeX number 2. So very consistent top 8 placements here all across the board. I think Decidueye Goons is a very solid deck. It's going to take a pretty decent hit when Vivid Voltage comes out and we see that new Aegislash card. But for right now, I think that Decidueye Goons is doing really well and comes in at our number 8 spot for the month of October. And at number 7, we've got the Mewtwo GX Welder deck archetype. Man, this thing's been seeing play for a long time now. It was one of the best decks in the format. Still a very solid deck in the format, but has dropped off slightly just sort of as the months have rolled over. Number 7 spot, so it's got 753 CP here, points. Definitely, a big leap from that number 8 spot, Decidueye and Goons, but, it's actually right behind the number 6 spot and is definitely, a pretty solid deck. People are running Marshadow now to get rid of those pesky power plants that people are running, as well as Chaotic Swells, Giant Hearths, all those stadium cards that you don't want in the active. Marshadow is definitely there to help that out. Definitely seeing a lot of play. Stealthy Hood is another card that a lot of people are playing right now with this deck, and I think that's a really good inclusion as well. And another thing that people are running, as I've actually seen one of these top placements here that I've included was running like an Aurora box deck list, which was kind of funny. It was a mix between like that Aurora Welder box deck, just sort of with Mewtwo GX, tech cards included. So that was a very interesting deck list, but I figured I would include it as well. If we look at the tournament placement, so it got second at the PokeX Season 3 number 1, got second at the Sunday Open on the 11th, second at Hexter Season 2 number 16, and I got third at the Atlas Mini number 11, and fourth at PokeX Hyperlux number 1. So very consistent placements here. No number 1, no winning placements, no first place placements for Mewtwo GX Welder, but a ton of top 4 placements. So it's definitely pretty consistent. I think that this is a very solid deck. And I think it deserves to see a bit more play. That we see a lot of ADP Zacian right now in the format, and Mew3 Welder has a really good matchup against ADP, I think. So definitely deserves to see a bit more play. And if you're looking to counter those ADP Zacians right now, this might be the deck for you. And at number 6, we have Lucario Melmetal GX with Zacian. Now, this deck has seen a little bit of a decline in this past month, but still an incredibly solid deck list here. People are, consistently running Zamazenta in this deck. That seems to be a very key inclusion. And people are also running Pokedolls, as sort of, a stalling tactic, and it's also a good pivot. So I think those are two very important inclusions in this deck. Some people are running Altaria. I wish I included Altaria in this graphic, but I put Hammers instead. It seems like more people are running Hammers, but I think Altaria is a really good inclusion in this deck as well. Very solid deck, just above the 7th spot there, Mew3 Welder with 780 points. I think Luke Metal is going to see a lot more play and get a lot better after Vivid Voltage comes out with that new Metal Coating Energy to remove its weakness, as well as Aegislash to hit through things like Altaria and Decidueye Goons. I think Luke Metal is going to see a lot more play. I think it's going to get a lot better, but for right now, it's at the number 6 spot. I got second at Chill Series number 5. Got second at PokeX Season 3 number 2. It got third at Limitless number 4. Third at Limitless number 3, and it got fourth at the Atlas Mini number 11. So again, very solid top 4 placements, just like Mew3 Welder, but we haven't seen a whole lot of tournament wins with Luke Metal. But look out for this deck. Once Vivid Voltage comes out, once those new cards become legal, I think Luke Metal is going to get a lot better, and I think it's going to start seeing a lot more play. So, next month we'll probably see this deck a bit higher on the list. All right, now on to number 5. We have Centiskorch VMAX, now getting into the big heavy hitters on our list. Centiskorch VMAX, definitely a little bit of a dip in this past month, but I actually made these graphics and this list, for the, including all of the tournaments during the month of October, but it actually just won on the last Hexter tournament this past Monday, I believe. But Centiskorch VMAX, it racked up 897 points. Definitely a very solid deck list, a very powerful deck right now. Just sort of dropped a little bit in play. But I think that it's still going to be one of the best decks in the format come, the next set when it releases. People are running Marshadow now in this deck, which I think is really good. Make sure that you're able to get those Giant Hearths on the board when you need them. No Chaotic Swells getting in your way. And then people are also running things like Heatran and Cramorant. Those seem to be pretty popular inclusions into this deck. One can snipe the bench, kind of cheap out some extra prize cards there at the end of the game, if you don't have Box's Orders in hand. And Heatran GX is another option to just get a huge KO if your Centiskorch VMAX is running low on HP. So I think those are all really important inclusions. If you look at the, the placements here, so I got first at the Chill Series number 7, it got first at PokéX Season 3 number 2, first at the Sunday Open on the 18th, it got third at Hexter Season 2 number 18, and it got fourth at Hexter Season 3 number 1. So a lot of consistent placements for Centiskorch VMAX, just below, all of these other top 4 decks that we're going to get into here, but still a very solid list. I think it's going to be seeing a lot more play in the next few weeks. At number 4, we have Blacephalon from Unbroken Bonds. Now, Blacephalon is, of course, still the top single prize archetype in the standard format right now. It took quite a big of a leap since last month here at the number 4 spot. It ranked up 1,216 points during the month of October. The Blacephalon deck archetype, like the skeleton for it, has been very consistent over the past few months. Nothing much has changed too much since rotation happened. Everybody's running Cramorant. I think that's a good inclusion right now. But I think that a lot of people are going to be running the new Talonflame V card that's coming out in Vivid Voltage, though it's not out yet, so I didn't really include it. I will probably for next month's list. Some people are running Zigzagoons to kind of fix that math, right? So like if you're hitting for 300, if you only have those 6 fire energies in hand, having a couple of Zigzagoons or a Zigzagoon and a Scoop Up Net can bring you up to 320 and hit, get that math correct for a lot of those VMAX Pokemon. And some people are even running Reshiram and Charizard, which I think is interesting, but can also be a really good inclusion in some matchups, right? So I think that that's a notable inclusion. If we look at the the placements here for this past month, they got first at Hexter Season 2 number 18, first at PokéX Season 3 number 1, it got first at Krolos Tournament number 8, it got second at Atlas Mini number 11, and second at the Chill Series number 7. So again, really consistent placements here. It was played just a little bit more than Centiskorch, I believe. And if it wasn't played more, it just had more consistent placements over this past month. But that leap from the number 4 spot to the number 5 spot was actually pretty sizable, about 350 points difference. And I think that Blacephalon is a really solid deck right now in the format, and has a really good matchup against some of the most played decks right now. So I think Blacephalon still has a really important spot right now in the standard format, and I recommend that you guys try it out in tournament. All right, and now on to our top 3. On our number 3 spot, we have Eternatus VMAX. Now, Eternatus VMAX, still very solid deck right now in the format. Still a lot of people playing it. Still a lot of great placements, but one thing to note is that with 1,686 points, it is quite a bit behind our number 1 and number 2 spot, but very solid deck list nonetheless. What's also interesting is people have, sort of turned to playing the poison version of Eternatus, Poisonatus, as some people like to call it. That seems to be the most consistent deck list right now for Eternatus. Of course, Slowbro V, Galarian Slowbro V is the more important inclusion in there, but Dark City is also very important as well on that deck. People are running Hammers in Eternatus now as well, just like they are in pretty much every other deck. And can be really good in the Ditto matchup and against things like ADP, so definitely one thing to note. And then, kind of a version of Eternatus that counters Hammers is Turbo Patch. So people are running Turbo Patch in some Eternatus lists. I know it sounds weird, but, it works sometimes. So, if you're not interested in playing Poison or playing Hammers, then I recommend, trying to throw in there some Turbo Patches to kind of make that Crushing Hammers matchup a little bit easier. If we look at the placement, so I got first at Atlas Mini number 11, first at Limitless number 4, first at Limitless number 3, first at the Chill Series number 6, and I got second at this most recent Krolos Tournament number 8. So Eternatus VMAX, definitely a really solid deck list here. Extremely powerful, kind of along the lines of Centiskorch, even though it got pretty much twice as much points during the month of October. I think that they're pretty equal. I think more people are kind of playing Eternatus, but at the same time, Eternatus with that poison just has a really powerful matchup against some of the other VMAXs. So I think that running Eternatus VMAX is a smart move right now, and I think that it definitely should see more play. Although with Colossal VMAX coming in Vivid Voltage, it might take quite a bit of a hit, especially since it's getting hit for weakness with Colossal. And I think Eternatus and Pikarom are going to, kind of drop down a little bit going into next month. But for right now, Eternatus takes that number 3 spot. All right, in time for probably the biggest surprise of them all for the entire video here. we have at the number 2 spot ADP Zacian, so it's actually got knocked off its pedestal here, moved down to the number 2 spot just barely, but still not the number 1 deck right now for this past month. ADP Zacian, man, there's not much you can really say about it. Right now, people are running hammers all over the place in ADP Zacian. People are running a bunch of different tech inclusions as well if they're not running hammers, things like Mawile, things like Milotic, Duraludon, just a lot of other cards. People are even running Greninja as well now in this deck, Greninja GX. But ADP Zacian, extremely solid deck list here, ranking up at 1,954 points. Definitely among one of the the best decks right now in the format. But one thing to consider is that ADP Zacian is run more than double as much as all these other decks right now on the list. So it's actually impressive that it didn't make the number 1 spot, considering how many people are playing ADP Zacian in all these online tournaments. If you look at its results, so it got first at Hexter's Season 3 number 1, first at Atlas Mini number 8, got second at Hexter Season 3 number 1, second at Atlas Mini number 9, and second at the Chill Series number 8. So not a whole lot of tournament wins for ADP Zacian, but an absolutely incredible amount of top 8 placements as well as top 16 placements for ADP Zacian. Again, it seems to sort of be tapering off a little bit. I don't want to say that it's becoming irrelevant at all. People are still running ADP Zacian all over the place. But in terms of winning tournaments, getting consistent placements, ADP Zacian still just it hasn't been cutting it this past month. We're going to move on to the number 1 spot, and you guys might be surprised. You might not be surprised. But ADP Zacian here, still an incredibly consistent deck right now in the format. Will I recommend you to play it? Probably not. I don't think that as many people should be playing ADP Zacian, but it just sort of seems to be that deck that everybody knows how to play, and everybody can consistently get a top 16, top 8 placement with it. So they're just going to go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's the number 2 spot. It's ADP Zacian. All right, guys. So at the number 1 spot, we have Pikachu and Zekrom GX Tag Team. Now, Pikarom is, it's surprising that it was, before rotation, it was by far, I think, the best deck in the format. Dropped in play a little bit for that first month, and then the previous month, it started to just see a bit more play, consistently getting more and more relevant. I think last month it was at our number 4 spot, now jumping up to our number 1 spot here with 2,026 points. Pikarom, it's just had an incredible run here the past 4 weeks. It's been played, almost about, I think, around like a third as much as ADP Zacian, which makes it even more incredible that it beat it out in terms of points here. But it's just been winning an incredible amount of tournaments this past month, and it's just proving to be an incredibly consistent deck list. If we look, people are running Vikavolt now in this deck list, and I think that that's still a really good idea. It has a lot of good matchups, and when you pair that with the Energy Denial from Crushing Hammer and Team Yell Run, it makes this deck incredibly annoying to go up against, especially if he's getting lucky with those hammers, right? If your opponent is flipping heads 3 times with Crushing Hammers while consistently getting those Team Yell Runs and getting the item lock with Vikavolt, or even just quickly setting up Pikarom, it can be just terrible to deal with, and incredibly powerful. If we look at the placements, though, it got first at Chill Series number 8. Shout out to Angel Ranabar. If you guys haven't seen our championship interview, go check it out. It was our last video on the channel. We got first at the Hexter Invitational, which was a huge tournament there, right? Shout out to Azul. Got first at PokéX Season 3 number 1. It got 4th at Limitless number 4, and it got 5th at Atlas Mini number 11. Now, I made this list before, again, the Hexter tournament last Friday, but it also won that tournament as well. So going into the month of November, again, even more impressive and consistent. Pikarom, and I can't really say a whole lot about this deck. It's been around absolutely for an incredibly long time now. It just seems to be always extremely relevant. And this month it ended up taking the number 1 spot, which is actually crazy. One thing I do want to mention, though, with the inclusion of Colossal and with the up-and-coming rise of Excadrill, I think Pikarom is going to be taking a pretty big hit here going into next month and after Vivid Voltage comes out. But I do think that Pikarom is still an incredibly powerful deck. And this past month, it ended up getting the number 1 spot. So again, it deserves all the praise in the world. People are also not running Crushing Hammers in this deck too. I think a lot of people are running Energy Denial, but some people are just going ahead and running sort of like a rush down, more consistent version of Pikarom without the coin flips, without Crushing Hammers. And that deck list has also seen a lot of success as well. Not as much as Hammers, but it deserves to be mentioned. But anyway, guys, Pikarom, our number 1 spot on the list this month. But alright, guys, that is going to wrap up the video. That was our 10 best decks going into the month of October. Again, the title is Best Decks for November. But the rankings and the placements for all these decks were based off of the entire month prior, so October. But to give you an idea of how the meta looks going into the month of November, that's what this video is all about. So I hope you guys enjoyed. A big shout out to PokeStats, big shout out to Cash Vinderman for helping with all the data and giving me everything I need to make this list and make this video. So definitely big thanks to them. Go check them out if you haven't. One thing that I want to leave you guys on is that the Chill Series number 9 is coming up this Wednesday, so tomorrow when I release this video. It's an incredibly fun tournament. We have a great community of players and people there, so if you guys haven't played yet, go check it out. This is our second to last event before the season ends, and we move on to our invitational tournament. So you have two tournaments to try to get qualified for that invitational tournament. Yeah, guys, that's going to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go check out my other videos if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys soon.